Welcome to EDPS Newsletter Digest, a bonus episode on artificial intelligence, a podcast series in which we bring some of the work we do to shape a safer digital future. Artificial intelligence tools have a potential to bring possibilities and also enhance productivity across a variety of sectors and fields, including European institutions. However, AI tools may bring risk. If misused, vulnerable people may be exploited. Today, we explore EDPS plan on AI, how to use it ethically and responsibly to safeguard fundamental rights to privacy and data protection, and does the EU AI Act have a potential to become a global standard as GDPR? How better to discuss this topic than with Leonardo Cervera Navas, Secretary General of European Data Protection Supervisor. Stay with us as we explore the topic. Leonardo, welcome to today's podcast.
Thank you for having me, and thank you for producing this podcast.
As our listeners already know, and some of them not, the EU Artificial Intelligence Act entered into force on the 1st of August this summer. The act is actually first globally, democratically established a regulatory tool to govern the AI. Taking the role of the AI supervisor of the EU institutions, the EDPS job is to ensure that all institutions are prepared, which is like every institution, they are developers, same for the providers, need to know the boundaries of these tools. In other words, that means that they should know the obligations and compliance applied to each AI tools and AI systems when placing in the market. Starting with elementary question, what does the AI Act mean for the European Union and EDPS and its actually role?
Okay, so first thing I would like to emphasize is that this new technology, AI, is probably a breakthrough for humankind because it's one of the main elements of the fourth industrial revolution that we are all in right now. So it will take a while until we see the impact of artificial intelligence in our daily lives, but we can already anticipate many positive effects in many sectors such as healthcare, education, or mobility. Having said that, I think it's obvious, everybody will agree that this new technology also presents some risks. I like to compare the AI technologies with the discovery of fire by humankind more than 100,000 years ago. Since then, this new technology of fire has been used by humans. We have not forbidden its use, even if it is very dangerous, as we all know. What we have done is we have learned to use it with caution and always under surveillance. So this is pretty much the same for artificial intelligence. Not because it's something obviously dangerous, we should forbid it, but we need to understand that we can only use it with sufficient caution and always under human surveillance. So, taking this to the realm of EU institutions and bodies, the EDPS will make sure that these technologies are used in our daily lives in a human-centered and sustainable way, in particular respecting privacy and data protection principles. In this regard, it's perhaps interesting to recall that the first provision of the AI Act says that this serves to preserve the functioning of the internal market and also to promote the uptake of human-centric and trustworthy artificial intelligence while ensuring a high level of protection of health, safety, and fundamental rights. Technically speaking, from an EU perspective, the EDPS will act as a notified body carrying out conformity tests and market surveillance authority. And I think we will talk a little bit more about this later on.
Indeed. As we know, the EDPS supervises AI systems already developed and used by the EU institutions granted by the EUDPR and other sectoral legislations insofar as the processing of personal data is concerned. Currently, we focus on sectors and data processing activities that pose high risk to the fundamental rights of people impacted by these systems. You, in your last point, you actually mentioned these two new roles of EDPS, especially the notified body and market surveillance authority. How these two roles are carried out in practice?
Something important to highlight is that this new competence of AI supervisory authority comes on top of the traditional competence on supervision of data protection. And AI per se is an activity that means processing of personal data. We will also supervise AI from the perspective of compliance with data protection. But coming to the new competences on the AI Act, we will have this market surveillance authority, which is defined as the authority that takes the measures to ensure that the activities are done in accordance with the market surveillance regulation. It's a little bit odd because we will need to figure out what is the market of EU institutions and bodies, but this is in the AI Act, so we will have to do it. And also, we will be the notified body to which EU institutions and bodies deploying or developing AI systems will notify the conformity assessments for high-risk AI systems. So this is a big challenge because we really don't know how many developers and deployers we will have in the EU, and we don't know yet how intensive this will be from the perspective of human and financial resources. So we will have to see as we go how much we will need to invest on these new functions.
Indeed, it's a complex responsibility. As you said, it's on top of the regular roles and responsibility of EDPS. And to prepare for these new roles, EDPS has a so-called plan, let's call it preparedness plan for AI. Can you tell us a little bit more about it, and especially to focus on its three pillars, that is governance, risk management, and supervision?
Yes, this is the vision I'm going to share with you is a shared vision that we have developed together with the other Secretary Generals of the EU institutions and bodies, because from the very beginning, I wanted this to be a joint vision, so everybody can see itself in what we are planning to do. And these three pillars have been agreed by the Secretary Generals. We met September 2024, and we will meet again in January 2025 to continue developing this mission. So the first pillar is governance. So we need to set up a very strong interinstitutional approach where there is clear cooperation between EU institutions, agencies, and bodies. And we know this work because we have been doing this for data protection for many years now. And we have seen that the level of data protection culture in EU institutions and bodies has increased enormously thanks to this governance. Part of this governance is a network of AI correspondents, about which we will talk a little bit later. And it is important to stress that this network will be composed of people with very different profiles. We will not only have the AI experts, we will also have data protection experts, we will also have compliance experts, human rights specialists, ethics, intellectual property, because AI is broader than data protection or law. It's also engineering, is many things. So this is the first pillar, strong governance. Then the second pillar is how to manage risk. Because here we have a big dilemma. If we are too complex or too strict managing risks, we may stiffen innovation. But on the other hand, if we are too liberal, then we may regret that we have adopted AI for institutions and bodies. So here we need to have a unified approach where we all know how to set the bar, not too high or not too low. And something important for this second pillar is the understanding that in order to run AI systems safely, you need to invest in safety. So when you procure or when you budget AI developments in your institutions, you cannot only count on the cost of putting the product in production, which is traditionally what it is done. Here, as this is a very high intensive and risky activity, you also need to budget safety. So in the same way that for cybersecurity, for example, it is understood that around 10% of the investment of IT need to be deployed for cybersecurity. Here we will have to have something similar. And it's important that everybody in the institutions and bodies understand that this is not a cost. This is like a condition sine qua non. You cannot deploy AI systems. And the last pillar, which is a little bit more technical, is about efficient supervision. Because as we said at the beginning of this recording, AI, like fire, needs to be supervised at all times. So we have to have supervision that works, that everybody is taking care autonomously that there's not going to be fire going on in EU institutions and bodies. Is the first challenge for us. Will start very soon, because by March 2025 we will have to make sure that nobody is using AI technologies for any of the prohibited uses laid down in the legislation. And it might be the case that there are some EU institutions, agencies or bodies that they are running AI systems that fall into one of these categories, such as biometric categorization, facial recognition, or the inferring of emotion.
I say many people might even think that we are super negative, but EDPS tries to anticipate any possible way that could go sideways, which is a challenging task already right now. You mentioned, and I want to focus on this, the first pillar of the AI Preparedness Strategy, which is the strong governance, as you emphasize. The first pillar, this first pillar, and the network of the AI Act Correspondents. How will it work in practice? How do AI Act Correspondents actually contribute to cultivating some sort of a collaboration among all the EU institutions and the EDPS?
Something important to stress about this, are we being negative? Are we being opposed? Is that achieving freedom, achieving good management is not binary. It's not about being positive or being negative. It's about being proactive. So it is not because we are now going to put, a firewall, or we're going to conduct an audit. All the problems are solved. No, for AI to develop beneficial impact, you have to put in place many things. So, of course, we are positive, but we need to be positive when we are positive. We need to be negative when we need negative. You see, it's a combination of all these forces and values that work together. But coming to the point of the network of AI correspondents and this new role, we Europeans, we are normally criticized that we think that we know best and we don't look around the world, etc. Actually, this idea we took from President Biden's executive order on AI, because the US thought it was very important to create a compulsory role in any government department dealing with AI. I think they are called AI officers. So we don't have this in the AI Act, but we think this is a great idea, because when you give someone in an organization ownership, when you give someone a clear responsibility, this is beneficial for the whole organization. So that's why, even if it's not a legal obligation, we are encouraging the appointment of this person, as a way of best practice, and this role is different from the role of the data protection authority, the data protection officer.
I just want to clarify right at the beginning, because you said it's not same as a data protection officer, but it really sounds like the AI Act Correspondent is same as a data protection officer.
It is not. The data protection officer is provided by law. It's in the GDPR for the private sector. It's in the EUDPR for EU institutions and bodies. And it's a role that is independent, is chartered, it has concrete tasks and responsibilities. The AI correspondent is something different. It's something that we are creating in agreement with the other EU institutions, and maybe also the DPO, but maybe someone different, because it's a completely different role.
And in this case, question is very easy. What duties and tasks would derive from this mission, concretely for the AI Act Correspondent?
Okay, to be completely frank with you, Miriam, we still don't know to the 100%, because this is something that is not in the law. We are just creating this new role. And what we did is we called for a first preparatory meeting with all institutions and bodies recently, where we brainstorm with the community what should be the concrete role of the AI correspondent. I can tell you what we think at this moment, but we probably evolve in the future, which I think is fine, because we cannot pretend that we know everything from the start. So the most important role is to serve as a contact point between the institution, the Commission, the Parliament, particular agency, and the EDPS. We need to know who we talk each other. The second role, I think, is to be in very close contact and synergies with the other AI correspondents in other institutions and bodies. Because we have the tendency in big administrations to reinvent the wheel every single time. We are working on the same projects in Luxembourg and Strasbourg and Brussels, sometimes even in the same building, in different floors, without knowing that we are doing the same work. So if you put people together and they exchange what they are doing, they immediately realize, oh, by the way, but if DG Connect is already developing this, we just wait until they finish and then we focus on something else, something like that. So first is contact point with the EDPS, the responsibility to be in close contact with everybody else. And of course, this person should facilitate compliance with the obligations of the AI Act, informing, advising the institution, and also very importantly, making sure that AI systems adhere to a strong ethical standards, because ethics is super important in this context.
We will go back to actually ethics a little bit further in the podcast. If I understand correctly, the AI correspondent is an ethical compass, a legal eagle, because he needs to understand quite a lot of things, and also a tech translator, all in one. What is the role of the network itself?
Once again, we don't know for sure. I think we have to be honest and sincere here. What we know is that the sky is the limit, and we think we should be very ambitious, because the challenges we have ahead of us, all of us together, as institutions and bodies, are huge. Therefore, the more ambitious we are with the deliverables of this network, the better for everybody. But as this is something voluntary, we cannot impose a vision on everybody else. We think that as the very minimum, it should serve as a platform for sharing information and developing collective training, flagging important things that are in the mind of everybody. So rather than this is my personal vision. I am now speaking only as Leo here, but with the limited resources that we have, rather than us figuring out on our own, the EDPS, what are the needs of this community, I think it's much more efficient if they tell us when they think that a public intervention from our side is necessary. So, for example, in the area of data protection, when I started working as a director, when was it, in 2017, some people approached me, some colleagues, directors, like secretary generals of other institutions, and told me, look, full respect for what you're doing, but what we really need at this point is that you clarify who is a data controller and who is a data processor in the institutions and bodies. And I found this fantastic, because then we could focus on that, we deliver this opinion, and we help tremendously everybody. So I anticipate the same here for the AI. They, rather than us coming with a lot of advice and guidelines, I think it would be better if this network, they talk to each other and then they come to us and then they say, Leo, here actually what we need is a clarification. I don't know. What is the exact meaning of deployer when I am deploying, and therefore I need to comply with this section of the AI Act, and then we act. So if only we could achieve that, I will be very happy. But we can imagine many more things for this network. For example, it could be an early information system if something goes south. It could be a fantastic platform to organize joint procurement, negotiate with external service providers. So, as I said, the sky is the limit, but we need to start slow and to listen to what other institutions want.
Thank you for clarification on this. Going and moving a little bit further, the AI Act, as I mentioned, is the first globally democratically established regulatory tool. I have two questions, but let's start with the first one, and your personal view as Leonardo is sitting here. How we ensure our function under the AI Act, because you mentioned the voluntary network, but what is as EDPS our function?
I remember when we started with data protection, for good or for worse, I've been in this job for really too long. So I have clear memories of how it was when suddenly we decided that the EU institutions and bodies need to comply with data protection. And nobody had DPOs or anything in place. It was something similar to what we have today. And I learned a lot from the two first supervisors we had, Peter Hustings and Giovanni Buttarelli. They were very, very solid and pragmatic. So here, I think, as I explained before, the key is governance, and the key is good management, which means to do the right things and to do things right. It's very simple, but at the same very complicated, because you have to identify what are the right things to do. Not do everything, because this take us nowhere. You have to identify what are the priorities, and when you know that your priorities, how to address them properly. So here, as the key element is governance, our main goal is to reach out to other networks where they are discussing and deciding about similar things, and make sure that we all work on the same direction. For example, we have the Cybersecurity Board recently appointed. We cannot run AI without proper cybersecurity. We have also the Committee for Informatics, ICDT, that they have been meeting for many years now, where they will be discussing also AI. So we cannot repeat the discussions. Either we discuss in this forum or we discuss in the AI network, but not the same time and probably with different messages. Or we started some cooperation, baby steps, but we already had a couple of meetings with colleagues in CERT EU, which are super important, for the cybersecurity. So this is essential to work all together, very close cooperation. Of course, we need to work very closely with the AI office. They call the shots here. Here is the AI office who will be telling us how to interpret and apply the AI Act, and then we will be the tech translators, as you mentioned before, to the network and to AI correspondents. We will also sit as observers in the European AI Board, which is very important because even if we will not be participating as a data protection authority, obviously we know a little bit about data protection, so we can help this community also in case of need. And we will also need to reach out to other international organizations working on this. I think in particular the OECD, they are quite well advanced, or those colleagues in the US dealing with AI safety, for example. They are quite advanced, and they will probably have much more resources that we have here in the little EDPS, so we should benefit from their work as well.
That actually plays into my cards. Do you think that EU Artificial Intelligence Act can become a global standard in the same way as the GDPR is considered as a gold standard? You mentioned that OECD is having some frameworks, same for UN. Do you see any potential to be inspired?
Yes, I think so. I think we can repeat the Brussels effect here because our policymakers, our legislators were very, very good in adopting a text soon. It is not perfect. I remember that Giovanni Buttarelli used to say about the GDPR, it's not the law of my dreams, but it's good enough, right? Here is the same. So we have been the first in the world to put this on the table. So this will give us a clear advantage. But now what we have to do is to live up to the expectations. So we need to find a way to ensure that this legislation is implemented consistently and is implemented in a smart and pragmatic way. So far, in all my contacts, I've seen a lot of political will around, so I'm fairly optimistic. Yeah,
I might say that it is possible to have a global consensus on how to regulate AI, and what ethical principle should be agreed upon.
this is here we are coming now to the difficult part, because the world is very diverse, and we don't speak the same language, and we have completely different legal cultures, history. So what we may call fairness may not be the same in other parts of the world. So agreeing on solid written stone ethical principles is quite difficult. But that doesn't mean it's impossible. So it requires a lot of talk. It requires a lot of discussions, sometimes back and forth. But I think we will get there. I think it was a few months ago that we recorded this talk with the UN Secretary General's envoy on technology, Amandeep Singh Gill. And I would recommend to our listeners that they go and listen to our conversation, because it was really amazing to see how close we both were in an understanding on how an ethical deployment and the protection of human rights is in the EU and in the UN framework. So it's not going to happen overnight. It requires a lot of goodwill, but I think it should be possible to have, let's say, a global regulation on AI.
Indeed, in this talk, we explored the possible convergence of UN and EU's principles on AI and discussed ethical deployment very briefly. So we just talked right now very extensively on EDPS ongoing AI preparedness strategy, especially this interinstitutional as well as a global approach. Moving on to EDPS more on the ground work, what other initiatives has the institution been working on regarding the AI to help EU embrace these tools and systems, and of course to still prepare them for all the risks that AI actually entails?
Once again, being very honest, and I don't want to be provocative here, but I think in order to make progress, we have to start from the facts. The fact is that the EDPS has not given yet the resources to work seriously on AI supervision. That's the way it is. I mean, sometimes the budgetary authority doesn't understand the kind of challenges that we have, and for this year 2024 we were not giving any resources. even if the AI Act entered into force in 2024. So we have done little because you can only do as much as your resources you have. And even if I have some data protection experts in-house that I could spare, I cannot ask a data protection expert now to become an AI expert overnight. So, but we have done a few things, and which probably show our willingness to do much more and do well in the future. We have adopted some guidelines for EU institutions and bodies on generative AI from the perspective of data protection, but still it's related to AI, and we are about to adopt some acceptable use policies for our own staff when using generative AI at the EDPS. So this is just an example of even without resources, we are doing things. But for me, the most important thing we've done, and the one I attach the most importance is the reaching out and the dialogue I have done with the Secretary Generals of all institutions and bodies, where we have managed to agree on a shared vision. It's still very broad vision, but I think this is very important because we can do now some bottom-up and top-down approach, and that we did, and I'm very proud of that.
What contingency plan has the AI Act, and who would bear actually responsibility of this risk? Has EDPS work on this as advisor?
Well, the surveillance mechanism is there. There are big fines, and I think comparable to the ones for the GDPR. So supervisory authorities, we will not hesitate to act when it is necessary. But also the issue of the liability is very important. So the Commission has been working on 2 proposals on liability. We have supported these proposals, and we have also issued our own recommendations about it. So it must be absolutely clear that you cannot, as a human being or as a manager or as a leader, you cannot delegate the responsibility to a machine. There's always has to be a human being that is responsible for any harm. And that's why these liability acts that are in the making are so important.
The EDPS has done some research also internally on AI, especially technology and privacy unit. Can you maybe just describe a few of those and tell us, our listeners, how we work?
Yes, of course. We with the very limited resources we have, we are talking about a bunch of people. And we are not talking here about dozens of people. We are talking 5, 6 people probably. We have done a lot in terms of pedagogy about the impact of new technologies, forecasting about the future, and putting people together. These IPEN workshops is a good example of that. IPEN brings together developers and data protection experts with a technical background from different areas in order to support projects that build privacy into everyday tools. So this IPEN has been going on for many years now, and in this context, we have had very fascinating discussions with engineers, basically on topics such as explainable artificial intelligence or human oversight and automated decision making. So yes, we are working on this, and hopefully when we receive resources from the budgetary authority, we should be able to set up some kind of AI lab where we will continue working on these things.
Thank you, Leonardo, for showing how also extensively we work internally on this, provide some research and also advices on same as being a supervisor to institutions. I think in generally, before deploying any of these systems into our work or just daily life, we should questions how we could use it, what could go wrong, how these tools can be misused, and how to mitigate all this risk. We should be indeed building on responsible AI practices into operation before even use it. Personally, I believe, as you said, that GDPR was also somewhere, as right now is AI Act, will be on the board to shape the future where the AI be useful for being on one side progressive in variety of fields, but also being there as the one that protects fundamental rights to privacy and data protection.
Indeed. And I think you got it right. The future is not written. The future we make. And it is our responsibility to make sure that this AI technology is used for creating a better future for all of us. You institutions and bodies, we are just one stakeholder among many, but I think we have a great opportunity to lead by example, as we did with data protection and EUDPR, and we have to help our colleagues, our officials, with the right AI tools so they can do their job better. Some of these tools are terrific for helping in terms of productivity, saving time for repetitive tasks. There's a lot of business cases where having these tools will help us to do better our job. So we should not be paralyzed by fear. We should not be too scared. We should step by step incorporate all these tools for all of us and use our reputation. I think we have now got some reputation after so many years protecting data protection to persuade policymakers and our leaders that AI safety and human-centered AI is part of this better future that we want. So thank you very much for picking up this topic, and I hope you, our listeners, found our conversation interesting.
Yeah, thank you again. And actually, that's all from us. Thank you very much, Leonardo, for exploring the whole complexity of the roles and the plan of EDPS within the AI Act. And you've been listening to the EDPS Newsletter Digest podcast, a bonus episode. You can find it on our website and also on your favorite streaming platform. Today's guest was Leonardo Cervera Navas, and I'm Miriam Chakrodova. Thank you. Goodbye.